If I show you this picture, can you tell me what that is? Well, this weird contraption thing was actually on the Titanic, and believe it or not, this was considered a luxury. Okay, let me show you another picture and see if this helps. Do you have any guesses? Okay, well, try to guess in your head, because this mysterious torture chamber, iron lung looking thing is what we're gonna be talking about today. And it's pretty interesting. Now, we're gonna jump into this in just a quick second, but before we do, guys, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Here we talk about disasters and Titanic stuff. So if you're into that, make sure you hit that subscribe button. This thing that we've been looking at is called an electric bath. Now, I asked you guys on Instagram and here on YouTube what you guys thought this thing was, and I got a bunch of really funny answers. You guys were guessing torture chamber, casket, teleportation booth, an iron lung, and this one's my favorite here. Willy von Haderlitz's favorite hiding spot in Titanic. Now, it's basically a reference from Titanic Adventure Out of Time. If you guys have played that game, let me know down here. Okay, so it is not a torture chamber. It is not an iron lung, even though it looks like it though. I will admit, it does look like an iron lung. This is an electric bath. Now, a bunch of you on YouTube got the right answer. Shout out to these Titanic nerds. You guys are awesome. What is an electric bath, you ask? That is a fantastic question. Let's look at that. So an electric bath, contrary to what the name sounds, it's not somewhere where you go to get electrocuted for fun. You can think of it as sort of like a modern day tanning bed. It was essentially a little chamber that had a bunch of lights in it. Now, Titanic had 2 electric baths. They would have been located within the Turkish baths complex, the facilities on F deck, and they would have been only for first class passengers. I'm actually going to give you a tour of what this looked like a little bit later on in the video, so stick around for that. And these electric baths, they were all the rage at the turn of the 20th century. Everybody wanted to use these electric baths. Now, why? So essentially at the turn of the 20th century, these were used primarily for medical purposes. Light therapy was becoming very, very popular. Now, light therapy was the belief that, you know, exposing yourself to electric light, particularly UV light, had a lot of healing properties. Hospitals began opening full departments to use light therapy in order to cure acute and chronic illnesses. People believed that if they soaked themselves in UV light, they'd be able to cure a whole bunch of different ailments, which included typhoid, obesity, scurvy, chronic gastritis, and constipation. Constipation. Actually, imagine if it actually cured constipation. Like, what do they expect? People just like take a dump inside these machines? Yeah, it wouldn't have been fun. It would have been so gross. You need an actual bath after that. So yeah, everybody was all about the UV light back then. Obviously, today we know that, you know, the UV light doesn't have any of these properties. It doesn't cure any of these things, but they really believed in light therapy back then. And now these electric baths came in all different shapes and sizes. Some were horizontal, some you'd step into and they would be set up vertically, but they were essentially all the same design. They contained a bunch of different electric light bulbs in there, and you'd soak in this light. You wouldn't get electrocuted and you wouldn't get wet. Fast forward to 1911, 1912, when Titanic and Olympic were being built. These were modern ships and they kept up with the time. So obviously they included 2 electric baths for first class passengers to get this high-end treatment of light therapy right on the ship. Now let's pause for a second before we move on. I have a question for you guys. What do electric baths and cornflakes have in common? Think about that and I'll tell you guys at the very end of the video. The answer is super random, I promise you, so stick around. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Titanic's electric baths were located within the Turkish baths facility. This was reserved only for first class passengers, and you would have had to pay an extra fee to use the facility. So first class passengers would have purchased ticket from the purser located on C deck for 4 shillings or approximately $1 back then. This would have given them access to all the amenities of the Turkish baths that included steam rooms, the showers, the swimming pool, and of course the electric baths. The facilities were split up between men and women. The ladies could use the facilities in the morning, and the gentlemen, of course, would be able to use them in the afternoon. Now, something interesting about the electric baths, in certain depictions of different Titanic TV shows or movies, you sometimes see the electric baths depicted as almost like a steam a shower or like a steam bath.
I believe I'm parboiled.
10 minutes more, dear. Be brave. Mrs. Brown, your time is up, lovey.
Maud, you got an aspirin out there.
You see people like getting steam pressed within the actual electric bath, which is false. It's incorrect. Like I mentioned, the electric baths would have been more equivalent to a tanning bed. It's basically just a chamber with a bunch of lights in it. Now, how effective were the electric baths? Not really effective. As we know now, the UV light didn't really have all the benefits that people thought they did, and this electric bath / light therapy trend was phased out by the 1940s. But of course, at the time, first-class passengers would have expected that type of luxury from the most luxurious ship on the planet. Now, let me show you where these torture chambers, electric baths, would have been found on the ship. So what we're looking at here is the Titanic Honor and Glory animation. So as you can see, you would have to go all the way down to the bottom of the ship. We're going all the way down to F deck. Here we see the entrance to the Turkish bath complex. Here we see some signage explaining who is allowed to use the facilities at what times. And as I mentioned, passengers would have had to have purchased their tickets beforehand. They would have presented it to the attendant here at the Turkish baths, and then they would have entered this magnificent facility. This is the Turkish baths. So this would be considered almost like a spa. This is like the spa at sea. You know, people would just get pampered first class style. If we go through this room here, you would see the pool this way, and over here, you can see the electric baths. If we keep on going down this hallway, there would be another room with another electric bath. Titanic had 2 electric baths. It does kind of look like a casket, and sadly, a lot of these passengers probably needed caskets in a few days from there. Yeah, I know that was kind of morbid, but it's true. So yeah, a lot of you may recognize the electric baths because you play Titanic Adventure at a time. So in the game, there's a scene where this guy, Willy von Haderlitz, gets electrocuted in the baths.
Willy von Haderlitz. He is in very great danger.
On the real Titanic, that did not happen. I remember that scene kind of traumatized me as a kid. I was like, yo, even though the graphics weren't that good, it still seems kind of graphic, the guy being electrocuted like that, like. Okay, having watched that, if you guys were first class passengers, would you have used the electric baths? I think I probably would. I mean, I tan easily, so why not have a nice tan? Okay guys, so now that you know what the electric baths are, you know what light therapy is, and you've seen where the electric baths were located, it's time to answer the question that I asked you guys earlier in the video. What do electric baths and cornflakes have in common? Well, the answer is the inventor of the electric bath was John Harvey Kellogg. And yes, I'm talking about that Kellogg from Kellogg's, aka the inventor of cornflakes. So the guy who invented the tanning bed also invented the cornflakes. It's a really random combination. But yeah, in 1943, the New York Times wrote an article where they accredited John Harvey Kellogg as being the inventor of the electric lighting bath, which people, pasty people, I guess, still use today. Yeah, maybe he thought it would cure the constipation you get from like eating cornflakes. Okay, and for legal reasons, I'm just kidding. Kellogg's, please don't sue me. So there's your fun fact of the day. The tanning bed and cornflakes, same inventor. Well, I hope you guys learned something new today. If you want to learn what happened to Titanic's lifeboats, click this video here. And if you want to see me debunk some crazy Titanic TikTok conspiracy theories, watch this video here. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to join our community of Titanic nerds. Link to the merch is in the bio, and don't forget to stay curious.